Good afternoon, distinguished guests, honored speakers, dear colleagues, students. It is a great pleasure to welcome you today at the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics of the University of Ljubljana for this very special event. My name is Anja Oven, and I am a head of communications office. We are truly honored to host former NASA astronaut Sunita Williams, one of the most accomplished astronauts of our time, whose visit means a great deal to our faculty. Her career, her achievements in space exploration, and her strong connection to Slovenia are a powerful inspiration to many, especially for young people who are considering a path in science, technology, and innovation. Today's event will focus on Sunita's experiences in space, the role of science in shaping our understanding of the future, and the importance of international cooperation. A key part of today's program will also be the opportunity for questions and discussion, which we are very much looking forward to. Just a quick note for everyone, we do have cameras recording today's event and we'll be sharing it via live stream and for later viewing. Before we begin the main part of the program, we will first hear a few opening remarks. It is my honor to invite Dr. Igor Papic, Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, for first opening address.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to see such a big crowd, so many young people. And of course, it's also a big pleasure and honor for me to be here today. Dear Madam Williams or dear Sunita, it's a pleasure, as I said, to welcome you on behalf of our Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. I also would like to thank colleagues from the University of Ljubljana, especially Faculty of Mathematics and Physics, for organizing this event. I usually say that, in Slovenia we have probably only a few natural resources. One is, of course, beautiful landscape, beautiful country, and the other natural resource is the knowledge of our citizens, of our people. And, of course, science, innovation, research is an important part of our activities. We are strictly supporting these activities. Actually, in the couple of last year, we doubled the funding of this field. And one of the important areas is also our space technologies. I mentioned that before, we have certain niche areas, especially in the field of micro and nano satellites. And I'm really glad that we have already some good startups, very strong research companies in this field. And it's a pleasure for us, of course, that we can develop as a small country also something related to space. It is also important to point out last year we actually became a full member of European Space Agency, and I believe this is another stimulation for our researchers, especially for this young population that will be even more active in these fields. In Slovenia, we usually say that we have somehow related with 4 NASA astronauts, Sunita, and of course, Randy Breznik, Ron Šega, Jamie Lineker, with Slovenian roots. And maybe it was a kind of a joke, but I think we should start thinking about also a Slovenian astronaut in the years to come. So I believe that your visit is an important stimulation for our young generations. And of course, I believe maybe some of you who are sitting here today are dreaming about becoming an astronaut in the next years. Of course, I would also like to mention one of the Slovenian pioneers in the field of space sciences. You visited his center yesterday in Vitanje, Herbert Potočnik Nordung, and so we have somehow in our blood also this experience, field of experience, and absolutely Slovenia is supporting all these activities. And of course, again, if I look at these young people today, I'm absolutely not worrying about the future of Slovenian science, Slovenian innovation, and so on. And not to be too long, Once again, thank you very much for sharing with us your knowledge, your experience, and not just sharing with us, especially sharing with our young people, with our students. So thank you again, and all have a pleasant stay here in Slovenia, and all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would now like to invite Professor Gregor Majdic, Rector of the University of Ljubljana.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, dear students, dear Sunita Williams, it's a great pleasure and distinct honor to welcome you here at University of Ljubljana to share with us your thoughts about the space and space exploration. Astrophysics and cosmology has always been a strong field in the University of Ljubljana. Since the beginning, we had some strong research groups, and this has spread in recent years to some other research institutions, other universities, and also in general in public. As Minister has mentioned, we recently joined the European Space Agency, and I'm sure this will give even further promotion of space research in Slovenia. We have several important groups working in astrophysics or cosmology in Slovenia, but we also contributed some very important scientists worldwide. For example, one of the most prominent scientists at NASA, Dušan Petrač, was very important for developing and enabling space exploration. Today, two of the most prestigious cosmologists in the world are from Slovenia. They are all from alumni from our university, Uroš Seljak and Andreas Schlosser. And in addition, as the Minister already mentioned, we had 4 astronauts with Slovenian roots: Ron Šega, Randy Breznik, Jerry Lineker, and of course, our guest, Sunita Williams. So I think this shows that even a small nation could make important contribution to the knowledge of the world, to the knowledge of humanity, to the contribution to the development of the humanity. And visits like this are connecting us, give us further push to be even better, to work harder, to develop science, and to contribute to the humanity. So I'm really pleased that you are here. I'm really looking forward, and I'm sure everybody else in this audience, to your presentation. I wish you all the best, and since the beginning of the year, also have a great year and enjoy the future. Thank you very much. And I hope we'll see you again soon in Slovenia.
Thank you, Rector. Next, please welcome our Professor Emil Žagar, Dean of the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics, University of Ljubljana.
Dear Ms. Williams, dear Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, dear Rector of the University of Ljubljana, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics of University of Ljubljana. We are happy and honored to have such an outstanding astronaut with us, and we are looking forward to hearing about her space missions. The Faculty of Mathematics and Physics is the largest and leading Slovenian institution in the fields of research in mathematics, physics, and also astronomy. We are currently carrying out several European Research Council projects, but our research is also supported by numerous international collaborations. However, research is not the only mission of the faculty. Education is equally or even more important. So that is why I'm especially pleased to see so many young people sitting in this hall, eagerly awaiting the stories of the space adventures of our distinguished guest. You might be our future students, and I'm really happy to see so many young people here. I'm confident that once again, you will be convinced that mathematics, physics, and astronomy is not limited to the planet Earth, but they can lead you to the sky. It is now time to begin the main part of the meeting. I wish you a pleasant gathering, enjoy, and thank you, especially you, Sunita, to being with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As mentioned, we continue with a short lecture by Professor Tomáš Cvitar, astrophysicist at our faculty. After his address, we will go straight to our honored guest, Ms. Sunita Williams. First, we will see a video, followed by a Q&A session. Enjoy.
Well, Sunita, so much happy to have you here. And, well, I would like to say a few words about Cosmos here at our faculty, at our university. Why I'm speaking? Well, I used to lead this group for several years, but now I'm a happy person. I'm a happy person because I'm not in charge anymore. And yes, this lady is in charge, and this lady is, of course, not coming to here. Well, shall we go to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so I'm speaking about Maruša Bradač. Maruša Bradač is our head. And if we go to the next slide, I would say a few words about Maruša. First, yes, she studied physics here at our faculty, but then went on to Germany, went on to the US, became full professor at University of California. But then, there was a James Webb Space Telescope of NASA being done, and she contributed some important ideas about one of the instruments. That's what you can see. She's a member of the core team of that instrument, and that was the basics for obtaining the prestigious European research grant, which is called First Stars, which is really what she's doing. So what she's doing means that we are having now a vivacious international and young group which is really moving mountains. And so this is now one of the European centers for early stars, for stars in the early universe. So I don't want to be very long. Let me just, the next slide. Yeah, this is the one. So just two examples. November last year, little red dot. What does little red dot mean? Well, you have a galaxy very, very far away. The universe was less than 10% of the present size. And in this galaxy, not surprisingly, there are not many stars, but you see a black hole, and this black hole has 100 times the mass of the black hole in our galaxy. Therefore, I wouldn't say people, but some objects in space are eating very fast. So obesity is not limited to humans, okay? Then another kind of example would be Firefly Sparkle. So once again, what does this mean? I said distant galaxies, first galaxies in the universe. But now, we can see individual clusters of stars in this galaxy, see how they develop in time, which are younger, which are older, and so on. So we are following stellar evolution. Now, James Webb is a fantastic machine, but only 6.5 meters. So wouldn't be possible to do that. And they have a little help. The help is that there is a telescope which is called gravitational lensing, a natural phenomenon which multiplies this light by several times, in lucky cases even several thousand times, making it brighter. And so you can do that, But now the important point is, no, we are not limited only to the distant universe. We are moving closer, so we are speaking about projects here, about our galaxy. In this case, for example, you see the Gaia satellite, and you see one little result out of that. We are seeing a cluster of stars similar to the one that was in the early universe, but now we are seeing that this cluster is getting rid of stars. One of those stars in one of those clusters was our sun. And now we are seeing this process in the making, really in our vicinity. So somehow we had long these ideas, but now they are reality. Now I said, in the top it's written that we have expertise in data crunching. That's the reason, not the money that we are in. Of course, you cannot pay it, but you can be invited if you are good enough. And this is another case. So yes, artificial intelligence, in this case, to find the structures in the early universe, to have an algorithm to pinpoint them to you. Or maybe here, to have structures you have 1 million stars observed, in this case in Australia, And you don't have 1 million students to look at them. Therefore, you need artificial intelligence to pinpoint you some special types of stars like binaries, peculiar stars, and so on. And well, just maybe the next slide, yeah. Foremost is a big project in Chile, which started in October last year. And here again, we are responsible for the looking for binary stars, peculiar stars, so finding which is really a kind of needle in this data. Well, I said data crunching, but well, it's not actually data crunching. The important thing here is, well, we have expertise to work in a team. None of these projects would be possible without really being able to collaborate, as you know so well from space research. So this is important. This case, for example, you have here a bunch of maybe 60 people who put together this fantastic project in Chile. I mean, but yes, majority of students at our faculty, if we go to the next slide, are actually majority of, let's say, people interested in mathematics or physics in this country are actually studying these two disciplines here, I mean. And the reason is it's good to be relatively large, because then you are not alone when doing a project. For example, this is an observatory we have here on the hill close to Ljubljana, and people even in the first year of their studies, they have student assignments, but not alone. You need to be in a team with maybe 4 other students. You need to divide your work, to divide responsibilities, to be responsible, to respect the deadlines and so on. And people need to learn that. And yes, we are pushing exactly that, because people can be bright, but if you are locked in a separate room, you will do exactly nothing. And if you do collaborate, then things are actually flying. And this is an example observation of a star which got a bit dimmer just because there was a planet which is now, for some time, it was between the star and us, and therefore the star was partly obscured. Well, just to finish, we went from distant universe to stars in our galaxy, to the star we like, so our sun. As you know, it is very active stars recently, which is normal. But I mean, the important thing, which we are doing quite a bit, is connection between data from satellites, from SOHO of NASA or from Solar Orbiter of ESA, and physics models. I mean, how these two things actually play together, how to actually get knowledge. I mean, and all this is important for what we call space weather. But well, I'm sure that Sunita, you are very much familiar with this kind of view. So yes, we can have also Earth weather. And for Earth weather, for our colleagues here at the faculty doing meteorology, yes, the vast majority of all data come from space today. And so the important thing is how to include them in the models, in the interpretation, and actually then know that you have such a wonderful sunny day today here, okay? So they are able to do that, okay? Now, well, it's time to really go back to you. And to go back to you means that, well, I would like to pinpoint your really remarkable career. You're a Master of Science, of course, but then went on to become a naval pilot, to become instructor of naval pilots, eventually to become an astronaut with a remarkable record. I mean, everybody can read of your missions, of your days in space, of your hours in space walks. I mean, actually, you are the woman with longest sum of all these hours out of the aircraft, so spacecraft. So, really remarkable career. And well, now we will be running the video, as we said. And for this video, I would like really to pinpoint that you need to enjoy it. To enjoy it because, well, it really radiates how new knowledge is being acquired, how science is being done up at the International Space Station. Then once again, yes, working in a team, you need to work in a team, you are not alone there, I mean. And then, well, there are other things, I mean, isn't it fantastic to have 14 sunrises and sunsets per day? And, well, let me dare to say that, isn't it fantastic to have the best hair in the universe? Okay? Well, before we start the video, I should tell you that we are really privileged. Sunita agreed to actually say a few words before the video, and then, surprise, surprise, she will be commenting the video on the fly, so you'll get better narration than the official one, okay? Okay, so Sunita, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm just amazed how many people are here. Hopefully nobody will fall asleep. There should be a little activity here in the video and stuff like that, and I will be talking through it. But I just wanted to emphasize a couple points. Teamwork, wow. Nobody does anything on their own. Yes, I'm lucky to be standing here as one person, but I wish my crewmates were here with me, because I think they would have maybe a different perspective. Maybe they'd be jealous of my hair. I don't know. But they would have even more to offer. I'm just giving you one perspective. And one of the things I really wanted to reiterate was, yes, congratulations for Slovenia being in the European Space Agency. And yes, I have a feeling that somebody in this crowd, or a crowd maybe in Vitinja, will become a Slovenian astronaut of Slovenian origin. That opportunity is there. Opportunity is really what it's all about. I had no idea when I went to the Naval Academy that my career would take this turn. Actually, even before that, when I was younger, I had no idea that I would even be in the military. That is a way. My path was a way to become an astronaut, but there's many other people in the astronaut office who are not military. We have doctors, we have scientists. What I wanted to be was a veterinarian. We had a veterinarian for a while. We have engineers, we have teachers. So the whole gamut. Everybody has a little bit of a STEM background, has a degree in a STEM field, and then went on, more importantly, to be part of a team. I've been lucky enough to be on the interview panel for U.S. astronauts, and the biggest thing that we're looking for is somebody has been a team. They have been successful in their career to a point, and then they've been either a leader or a follower or part of a team, made a contribution to that team, because like I mentioned, nobody does any of this on their own. Yes, I was lucky to be one of two people on a brand new spacecraft to go to space. I wish we would have been able to come home on that spacecraft, but I think most of you know that, always the glass is half full. I got an opportunity to stay in space for a long time. And just as it was mentioned, last summer, this summer also, but last summer in particular, we had incredible aurora because the sun was so active. And I would have never been able to see that. You'll see at the very end of the video a quick representation of a comet. We saw 2 comets while we were up there. How amazing is that? Everybody on Earth, unless you were flying all over the place, only got to see one of those comets, because one was in the northern hemisphere, one was in the southern hemisphere. But we got to see them as they were passing by, as they went around the sun, and their tails got even bigger as they melted more. That is spectacular. So I joke around that we were maybe in the wrong place at the wrong time on a spacecraft that had a little bit of a problem on the second day, but it turned into the right place at the right time. And I think a lot of life is like that, and you can always make yourself be in the right place at the right time. So I'm going to quickly talk to you a little bit about the video, because it gets a little confusing. We launched in June of 2024 on a Boeing Starliner on an Atlas V rocket. You're then going to see a little bit later, because we were there over the summer, at the end of the summer, a Soyuz spacecraft launched on top of a Soyuz rocket. That was in September. And then in October, a Dragon spacecraft launched on a Falcon 9. You're going to see all of those launches together, because the theme here is this is a really cool time in space exploration. And I just welcome all of you to try to be part of it in some form or fashion. It's not only rockets, it's spacecraft, it's space suits, it's hardware, all that is hardware, and then there's software associated with that. How to get to the space station, different trajectories of getting there, and then there's different hardware to bring us back home. You'll see different representations of ways people solved a problem to get us back to Earth. suits that are involved with that, and again, trajectories not only up, but also back down. And I'll talk a little bit through it. That all seems very technical, sort of, in a way. I'm not a very technical person. If you have any hard questions, there's a panel right here that will be able to answer those questions. But on the fun side and what it's like to be an operator and part of that team, everybody has a place on that team, a role and a responsibility. I'll share my role and responsibilities while I was up there. Okay, are we ready? It starts out a little dramatic, but it chills out a little bit. Maybe if we could turn the lights down, that might be better too, a little bit. I don't want to get in your way. This is just a little teeny sampling of some of the aurora that we saw, not only the green, but the reds and the purples. It was unbelievable, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But again, first a Boeing Starliner on an Atlas V in Florida, a Soyuz on a Soyuz rocket in Kazakhstan in Baikonur, and then a Dragon on top of a Falcon 9. You have again, 3 different pieces of hardware, associated them 3 different suits. We contracted with people and said, hey, make your own suit. And neat ideas, zipper the lid shut, the helmet shut, snap the helmet shut on the Soyuz suit. And then Dragon is more like a motorcycle helmet type suit. So you can even just see just in one aspect of the suit how different these technologies are. A lot of people don't know we were in quarantine before we go to launch about 2 weeks. And this is in Florida. We come out and we say goodbye to our families. Same thing happens over in Kazakhstan. Say goodbye to the general designers, the engineers who got us all ready to go. And then get in the rocket. And we are early when we get to the rocket because we don't want the rocket to take off without us, right? So you end up sitting in there for a couple hours while they're checking, making sure it's pressurized, making sure all the fueling is done. And then you say goodbye to the team and off you go. Again, the Atlas V on the left, the Soyuz in the Atlas V with 1 engine for the first stage. Soyuz, I think it's 27 engines if I'm not correct. And then obviously Falcon 9 engines to get us out of the atmosphere. That's just stage 1, right? And then the journey continues after that. Pretty incredible to see rocket launches day or night. If you ever get a chance, come to Florida. It seems like it's happening all the time. Baikonur, it happens too, quite a bit as well. I think we surpassed it. I remember having the Russians had over 400 launches. I think we have a lot more than that now with SpaceX. Staging right there to get rid of the rocket and then the spacecraft on its own, coming in for docking. Here, this was June last year. Starliner docking to the space station. Then Dragon coming in for its docking, and Soyuz. Here's a representation of the displays that we use as we're coming in as well. Soyuz obviously is in Cyrillic, in Russian as they're coming in. And the Dragon is obviously in English with more of a pictorial view, so a little bit more modern view of how you dock to the space station. Here you can see them coming in with their running lights. On the right-hand side is the front of the space station where the Dragon is docking. And you know what that results in? Good hair. Of course, once you get there, everything floats. You can't help it. Your arms, your hair, every single thing. Velcro is really needed. But it was a really great day when Butch and I were able to get to the space station. Day 2, we can talk about that later, was a little bit tricky with our engines having a little bit of issues, but we'll talk about that later. But you can see there's I think the media said there was only 2 of us. There was like 9 or 12 at different times while we were up there. We had a bunch of people. Logistics is a big part of all of this. How do you feed all these people for all this time, for example? And you can see the different docking port there for the Soyuz. We have 4 docking ports on the U.S. side, 4 docking ports on the Russian side, 3 different types of docking ports. So all of this is different technologies that all come and be integrated together. Again, this is our crew once the Soyuz crew got there. And then Nick and Alex arrived on a Dragon with only 2. Usually there's 4 people on the Dragon, but they had 2 empty seats so that Butch and I could come home with them. A big team sport, once again. 2 people were supposed to launch that graciously said, no, we're not going to go. Let those 2 seats be for Butch and Sunny for when they need to come home. So there's a bunch of us on board. So what do? We don't just hang out there. Yes, we do hug each other a little bit, but then this big home is a master laboratory. And we'll turn the volume a little bit and let Nick speak here.
We're constantly doing experiments. We're constantly collecting data. We're constantly trying to answer questions, and usually that leads to more questions. The focus of the question, though, is what happens when you take gravity away? Because it's such a strong force, it masks lots of the nuances in different things that behave around us, and understanding those nuances helps us understand more about ourselves as well as the universe and how we interact with it. So we look at medicines, we look at materials and making new materials, we look at how we behave so that we know how medicines might interact with us or how to counteract diseases. You name it, we're doing research on it up here.
We've had opportunities to do all sorts of science, spacewalks. It's varied and pretty awesome, actually, opportunity to do something different every single day.
You can see Butch Wilmore with the different canisters to collect those microorganism swabs.
The science of opportunity happens anywhere there are people thinking about advancing our knowledge, and the same thing happens on space station.
We have companies, universities, students all flying these astrobees around at different times. Some of them are actually even grabbing onto other pieces that we might have floating around, and that might help us clean up space debris. We have a tray right here that does some combustion experiments. Right on the other side of Butch is a glove box where we've done some stem cell research as well as DNA sequencing. And there's an airlock where it can take payloads out of the space station, and those could be Earth observation satellites, they could be launchers of other microsatellites, they could be doing all sorts of amazing stuff.
The mission of the space station, the scientific exploration, is something that we deeply believe in, and its ability to make a positive impact for all of humanity.
So we had a season of science. It usually comes with a Dragon cargo ship because it brings up all sorts of science experiments. And that way we can get data back home because we can put stuff back in that Dragon. It could be back at home and they can take it out. And then we went into, right after that, a season of spacewalks. So in the fall last year was all sorts of science. Right into December was our first spacewalk with the Russians. You can see their space suit is a little different than the U.S. space suit. Another new contrast compare of technology. Their suit is cool because you open it up, you get in, and then you close the door behind you. On our suits, you can see everybody has to help us get in, help us get all of our tools assembled, and then go out to do the spacewalk. The U.S. spacesuit is a little bit more like a Corvette. You can do a little bit more finer manipulations with things with your hands. Specifically, Nick and I, on this one, we changed out a rate gyro assembly. There's two of them on the space station. One was giving a little bit of bad data, so we wanted to go and change that one out before we lost it, and we were down to zero fault tolerant, as we call it. We wanted to make sure we had one working spare. So this is the box. It's not that big, but you could see the types of tools that we use. You're essentially like in snow gloves, but they're a little bit more manipulative than the Russian ones.
Camera,
Nick was working on this
off just past that left hand of his.
nicer payload, which actually looks out into the universe. Again, this is a question that has to go to the panel here in the front. It's very advanced, but we're the maintenance guy, so he was putting in patches because there was holes in the data because some of the patch parts of it had some interaction with radiation and was not working quite correctly. So Nick was putting patches on. I changed out a radio reflector on the front of the space station for the next Dragons to come up, and then we were working on the alpha magnetic spectrometer for potential future EVAs, trying to make sure that there's procedures were correct. Butch and I went out on another EVA in January, and that's the one where he was swabbing for microorganisms. We did find that things can live on the outside of the space station, probably as a result of us, from our vents, but things can live in the vacuum of space. Don and Nick, in the meantime, were getting the robotic arm ready to go. They were flying it as I was on the end of it, and they took me to a place that was very hard to get to without being on the arm in a position so we could remove a radio frequency group. This is an old piece of equipment, but we only have so many of them because it's getting slightly obsolete. very complicated task, but sometimes you need a crowbar, and that's all you need to get these things unconnected, disconnected, and then back into the space station. So it comes down sometimes to the end to the very simple, elegant solutions of a crowbar. But you know, it's not only all this work, science, and all this spacewalking stuff. It's just living in space also. We are experiments 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is where we live. This is our house. It's a little bit of a fly-through, one of our laboratories right here, the Japanese laboratory, into the Dragon spacecraft as it's docked, to just take a peek out the window, because that's always nice to take a look out the window. We do a lot of maintenance inside. We can't call up the maintenance guy to come help us. This is a pump for the bathroom that we were working on so that Don could finish working on the bathroom here, because we use it a lot. Why do we use it a lot? Because, of course, there's a lot of people, and, of course, we eat a lot of food, so you're using the bathroom quite a bit. This technology is getting a little bit old, but it works. It's good. It would be great if we could come up with new technologies for all of this eventually. We also eat a lot, so we have to exercise a lot. Again, we are experiments 24/7. We're up there. We're losing bone density. We're losing muscle mass. And so from the physiology world, how do we do that better in the future on smaller spacecraft? Here we had the weightlifting equipment, advanced resistive exercise device. We have a treadmill, and we have a bike, but that takes up a lot of space. How do we solve this for a smaller capsule? You guys need to help us do this to make sure that people, when they get to the moon, get to Mars, are going to be in good shape. There are sleep stations up there. Butch is sleeping here. Here's a time lapse of himself sleeping. Your hair obviously grows. I didn't let Butch cut my hair. But we had a couple Uber Eats, as they call it, come and visit us. One of them was, like I mentioned, a SpaceX Dragon cargo vehicle, brought a bunch of science experiments and food and some toys. 800 pounds of tungsten, just showing some basic physics here. A reboost. It's fun when you can throw something, it will actually turn around and go backwards when the space station does a reboost to get to a higher altitude. And yeah, we listen to music and we play around a little bit when we have some time.
We noticed that your space station has exceeded 150,000 orbits, so we're calling to inquire about your space station's extended warranty.
It is still in place.
Hey, this is going to be my T2 workout.
We were getting ready for the rodeo. Obviously, we missed a couple holidays that we weren't expecting, so get a little creative. Find out how you can make a couple costumes and share that holiday with your friends down on Earth. Another Uber Eats from the Russian side, from Kazakhstan, came up. The Progress vehicle, Alexei and Ivan could actually fly it if they needed to. If there was something that went wrong, they could fly it from the space station to dock. And it came in time to bring us stuff for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Let me see. We've got Brussels sprouts, butternut squash, apples and spice,
Smoked turkey,
and smoked turkey. It's going to be delicious.
So from all of us to all of you, Merry Christmas.
It was a huge achievement to get them all to decorate cookies. We had Russian New Year's and Christmas up there, which is a lot of fun. And, of course, time is going by, so we're getting older while we're up there.
Happy birthday, dear Butch. Happy birthday.
Somehow we made a cake up there. We could talk about that if you're interested. Not as good as Petitza, but close. A pretty amazing place, and I think you're feeling the team, right? But sometimes you have to have a little time by yourself and just take a look out the window.
Anytime you look out the window, it's pretty amazing. The Aurora Borealis, the Aurora Australis, just to see the variety of the Earth from above, it's just thrilling.
the aurora last summer, like I was quickly talking about, it came down so low that we flew through the center of it. Like, it was ridiculous. It was so cool. We're at 51.6 degrees on our inclination, and it was down lower than that. It was crazy. You could see all these little sparkles on the right-hand side. Those are Starlink satellites. And last time I flew was 10 years ago. None of those were there. Now they're crossing our orbit trajectory. It's pretty wild to see them. Just amazing views. Don was able to take pinpoint pictures of stars. We can talk about how he did that. Nobody else has been able to do that, to take amazing pictures right out the window. Time lapses. We took a lot of time lapses. I think we took over 1 million photos with time lapses, including this incredible lightning storm, which allowed us, with these great cameras that we have, to take red sprites and blue jets. Energy coming up out of the clouds is just an amazing viewpoint of our planet. I was talking earlier, initially, you're looking for things that seem familiar, and later on you start looking at your perspective changes, you start looking at the planet like a planet. Like, you can see where plates have bumped into each other. You can see algae blooms in the middle of the ocean. You can see icebergs floating in the ocean. You can see the Earth just with the moonshine on it. It is just, every time you go to the window, it's something different. When you're like, oh, I'm just going to be there for 5 minutes, and you end up an orbit later, like, oh no, it's, nighttime, daytime, and I'm still here. I better get to work. And it makes life go by really fast. Everyone's like, oh my God, 9 months, that's so long. It was all good things, as I say, had to come to an end, which is sort of a bummer to actually have to come home. But eventually, we all have to undock and start to come home. Starliner left this Dragon, of course, and Starliner left earlier because we did not come home on it. But there's a little bit video of that, which I'll show you coming up. This is, of course, Soyuz undocking. Just to compare, again, the 3 trajectories coming home. For Starliner, they undock, they get to a point, they do their deorbit burn, and then start to come home. So probably around like 7 hours. Soyuz is the same. For us, it was at 17. That's Butch's feet near the window.
Same thing. So it was absolutely amazing. And then when we went in, seeing all in the...
Can we go a bit quicker, yeah, please?
Say, the ISS in a norm, as it was, the Saturn that was more than 100 meters long, and everything what you were doing there. So the whole day you showed me all around, and I thank you very much, and I'm sorry, I thank you very much for your patience.
No, I thank you so much. Seriously, if people have an opportunity to come to Houston, really, and actually Kennedy Space Center as well in Florida, I'm so happy these places are open for people to come visit. There's a lot of amazing things going on. And it's about the team. I appreciate that you brought up about the people coming by. I've worked there for a long time, so a lot of people know me from a long time while I've been there. But I could every time I walk down the hall, I could find somebody who's like, oh, that guy did this part of the space station, or this person taught this on the space shuttle, or this person is working on this for Artemis. There's so many wonderful people, and everybody is working, I think, they're, government employees, not making a whole bunch of money, but because they love what they're doing. Exactly. And to capitalize on that also, here as well in Slovenia, there's so many companies who are involved in space. And if you have any desire to do it, it's there for the taking. The opportunity is there. Internships, working at a company. It's not unusual nowadays for people to work a couple of years at one space company and then go to another space company and then go to another space company. And what's great about that is you see, just like in the video here with this technology, different ways that people solve problems. And then you become a really big asset to the one company that maybe or organization or agency that you want to work for, that you've seen all these other ways to solve these problems and you can find the optimum solutions. So I think that's what the beauty is the networking and the people and the teamwork, just like we talked about real quickly. So thank you for your question. I'm happy to host you again anytime.
Okay. Next question. Yep.
How's with the psyche? Like, you went up there for 8 days and stayed for the 9 months.
So interesting. How's the psyche? So we were talking a little bit earlier today too about I was sort of a little sad that I wasn't going to go for longer when I first got assigned to that mission, but I was, pinching myself like, seriously, you're getting to fly the first flight of a spacecraft. You should be very happy about this. And of course I was, and it was amazing. Took a lot of time, and any big project that you're going to work on is going to take a lot of time. Of my life, about 10 years working with both SpaceX and Boeing to get to that point. So to be on the first flight was awesome. But I had this little nagging feeling in the back of my head about like, boy, I know what it's like to live on the space station. It's amazing. And there's so many neat science experiments. There's so much neat things to see and do. And then actually take people along with you. I wrote a journal every week while I was up there, so I took a lot of people along the journey with me. And I knew I wasn't going to get to do that, and I was a little bit sad. So when the initial day 2 happened, when we lost, 1 thruster, 2 thruster, 3, 4, 5 thrusters, well, I wasn't happy, obviously, because this is not a good situation, but I knew by the time we docked that we were going to be there longer than 8 to 10 days. I think that was pretty obvious. We're going to have to figure this out. I think the hardest part was actually the summertime, because there was a lot of indecision, coming, going. A lot of people were taking a lot of time and energy to plan our return, where it may or may not have come to fruition. Nobody wants to miss an opportunity. So there was a lot of, as you look back in 2020 hindsight, you might say unnecessary work. But you want to make sure you're ready when somebody calls on you. So a lot of people were doing all this work all summer long. We were then dragging along all of our family and friends also who are waiting for us to come back, and the plans that you have. I felt a little bit sad to make the phone call eventually to my husband and my mom and my sister, like, I'm not coming home for a little while. But the best part also about doing some of these types of things, and I think this goes for any exploration people might want to do, or trip, or joining the military for that matter too, is the support structure that you have. My husband, maybe they just wanted to get rid of me, I don't know. But my husband and my mom and my sister were like, just go have fun. Come home when it's the right time. And that makes you feel so much better that the people who love you and support you and that you have plans with are willing to just raise you up and just go like, you got this, don't worry about it. We'll see you in 6 months. Have a good time. I don't know what happened on Earth during that time frame, but who knows? Hopefully they had a good time. But, that I think was the biggest part of it. And when you're waiting around like that, that's the most frustrating for a lot of reasons. One, you don't know, your family doesn't know. And two, what are you doing, right? I think as told earlier today, as a good Slovene, we don't like to be lazy. We like to do stuff, right? So I knew some things, right? I know how to fix the toilet. I know how to stock the food. When it was obvious that we were going to stay, I should probably learn how to do that experiment. So I'm going to shadow somebody and see what they're doing, because I'm going to have to do it by myself next. So you take that time to really help out with the team. Fill in anywhere. It may not be the best thing that you're doing, changing the toilet paper roll, but you're there doing it, and happily doing it so that the team can be better and more productive.
What led you to the decision that you were going to be an astronaut? And do you remember the one moment that you saw all your hard work that went into being an astronaut has paid off and your decision turned out to be right?
Interesting question. I applied to be an astronaut a couple times, and I think a lot of people apply a couple times. I think I don't want to foreshadow anything, but get used to having a little disappointment in life. It's okay. Just keep pressing through. So the first time I applied, of course, I got this very nice letter that said, "Thank you very much. It was nice to talk to you from Johnson Space Center, but we don't want you to work here." Okay. So the second time I applied, I was actually on a ship in the Navy, and I was waiting for a phone call because we knew the phone calls were coming eventually. And it got to be 8 o'clock, and I don't even know if you guys can relate, but on the ship we had an actual phone at the time, and there was 200 people in this department, the air department. I was part of the group that works with the flight deck for the helicopters and jet on the ship, and I was actually living on the ship, and everybody uses that phone. Those 200 people. So apparently, unbeknownst to me, the people who were going to tell me that I was accepted to the astronaut corps tried a number of times and couldn't get through. And so finally, this was before cell phones. Finally, it was 8 o'clock at night. I was doing some work in there, and the phone rings, and the admin for the person who usually calls, who's an astronaut, said, "Sonny, is this you?" "Yes." I'm so sorry. And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, so sorry. I didn't get in again." And then she goes, "Everybody left. They were wondering where if you were ever going to answer the phone, because we'd like you to come to work at Johnson Space Center." I couldn't believe it. I was in shock, and it was really an amazing phone call. And I was so ready to share it with my family. My husband was a police officer, so I tried to get a hold of him. I couldn't get a hold of him that night. I finally got a hold of my mother, and she was very Slovenian. She's like, "Oh, that's great. I have to go to play tennis. Can we talk about this later?" And I'm like, "I finally got the phone. Are you kidding me?" But anyway, I went out by myself and celebrated that night. But, I think it actually was so honestly unbelievable to me, as well as my family, that people just didn't really get it until I was down at Johnson Space Center. My family had never gone down there. My husband had never been down there. And to walk around, just like we talked about, and see the Saturn V rocket there, see the space shuttle, see everybody training, see mission control, it was a shock, I think, for my whole family. But it doesn't mean that it's not unobtainable. It's achievable. And I think there's many more people who can do the same thing.
Okay.
I'm wondering how it is with you feeling secure and safe in the space in the ISS? Like, are you, oh, I can bounce around these walls a little bit and it's all gonna be fine? Or, oh, if I touch that thing, it's all gonna blow. It's gonna be over.
Yeah, interesting question. And it depends on where you are and what is activating at a time. We try to be our best stewards when there's some experiments. Like, it would be great if there was a space station, and hopefully we'll eventually have a gateway orbiting in the vicinity of the moon, where at some points in time nobody will be there, because there's some microgravity experiments that we mess up because we're in there, we're bouncing around, hitting things and stuff like that. So it's not absolutely pure. And so, yes, there are things that we're not supposed to touch, but generally it's fine. It's, it's what we call sort of astronaut proof. We have red tape that we can put on certain boxes and things like that just to make sure everybody sees it, because you can be out of control. Why it's astronaut proof is when people get up to space specifically for the first time, you can definitely tell who's been in space and who hasn't been in space. You see people who are a little bit floating around hitting things, not consciously, but there's years and years and years of us living on Earth, which means years and years and years of us with gravity. So even things that you throw, right? We throw with an arc. You don't even realize you do that, but you do it. You have to do it. So if you pass something in space, you're probably going to throw it. It's going to hit the ceiling or hit whatever wall. You don't even realize you're doing that. And that also it goes for us. You see people wearing a baseball cap in space, on the space station, for example. They've probably hit their head because they push themselves off like that, just like you walk, like up, right? So usually people gonk their heads at some point in time, and that's why the baseball cap is there. So there is a lot that can get messed up on the space station. We were very conscious or nervous, I think, when we had our first space tourists up on the space station. Denis Tito was the very first one who went up with the Russians. I think they had a handful of folks that came up there. And we're sort of a little bit of babysitters, just because they're not getting the full amount of training to know exactly what things they should touch and should not touch. It's not a hotel. It is a working laboratory. So as you go into any working laboratory here, there are things that are dangerous, right? It's the same type of thing. You just need to ask the questions. And so that's, I think, the biggest lessons learned for space tourists is ask the question. Don't assume anything. Be careful. It's dangerous. Your crew is relying on you. It's a team. Mm-hmm.
Hello, Sunita. I'm Natasha. Firstly, I would really sincerely like to thank you that you're so proud of your Slovene origin. This is really something that we are proud of too, at least I am, in comparison to the First Lady of US, of course. But I have two questions, actually. I know that when you go to into space and on your walks and so on, you have a helmet and so on. But what's the smell of space? And another one, what about the noise? Is it truly and so silent as in the movies? Or how did you experience that?
You're specifically talking in the spacesuit?
Exactly. How did you experience it?
Yeah, so in the spacesuit, I mean, the smell is you. So you control that. You're locked in there. It's all your own little spacecraft. So if you want to make it smelly, you can. If you don't, you don't, right? So it's you in there. There's really, everything that is happening to create, to give you O2, which is just pure oxygen, is in a canister behind you. Your CO2 removal is a cartridge. Metox, we used to be Lyo, but now it's Metox, which is scrubbing the CO2, and that's all in your personal pliss. I can't remember what it is, but the backpack that's on the back of the suit. So your smell is you. So that's that. I will tell you something interesting about sound, though. Right. So we have a helmet on, and underneath the helmet is like a little a cloth helmet. They call it the Snoopy cap. It's brown and white, and it's a chin strap, and it plugs into your sound system, so you can hear you're talking to the people that are in the space station through the radio, UHF radio, and then the ground can talk through the space station to us outside. So you can hear that in your Snoopy cap, right? But the other things you hear are just the fan going. There's a fan that's always running, and that is what's making sure all the systems are working. So you can sort of hear this in the back. But that's really it. Outside, you can't really hear anything except if you're touching something. Right? It's vibration. So it was interesting. On my very first spacewalk, I was up on the truss. We were trying to retract a solar array. So in the solar arrays, I have a canister. It's a big canister. It's about this big. It actually had deployed the solar array. We were trying to retract it. So inside of there is a motor that was either making these parts of the solar array go out or make them come back. So we're trying to bring it back in. And so they said, go, we're having some problems. It wasn't retracting. So they said, go up there. So my counterpart is on one side of the canister. I'm on the other side. And it was dark. So they said, just hang out there because we can't see what's going on. So we waited for 45 minutes, got a little cold, and just hanging out there. So I have my hand on the handrail, which is on the side of the canister. And then it started to be light again. And I could hear them having this conversation. They're like, try retracting it again, which I had done part of this on a different spacewalk. I was inside doing the computer to do this. So I know you hit a button, and then it's supposed to go and retract, right? So I could hear every time they hit the button, how many times they hit the button. So I came in, and I said, man, you guys are really hitting that button a lot. They're like, what are you talking about? I said, because they weren't having it like every single time. They weren't saying that. They were just doing it. And I was like, I could hear it. And they're all like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And I said, I could hear every single time you did it. And I went away feeling like I'm just and ding dong, I'm just an idiot. I didn't really know what I was talking about. What was I hearing? And I had to stop and think about it. But my hand was on that handrail. That handrail was connected to that canister. The motor is connected to part of the canister. So every time they would hit the button, I would hear the feedback was it actually was driving the motor, but the solar array wasn't retracting. It actually had a little washer on it, a square washer with an oval hole in it, which was holding up the line from retracting. So it was like pulling on the solar array, but the motor was going. But it took me like half a day to figure out what I was hearing. And I love this example because everyone just thinks sound is like, I'm talking and just some sound is like going in my ear and I'm magically hearing things. It's not. It's all the vibration of all the little pieces and parts in your ear that go to your brain to transmit that. It's pretty cool. Sound is vibration.
That's awesome answer. So, we have the last quick question. Okay, here up. Okay.
And I talk a lot, so I'm sorry that if I'm plugging up
perfect, but some people are waiting for you, so this will be the last one, okay?
Hi, thank you. I think this is going to be a perfect question for the end. So a couple of years ago, there was a Crown series, right? And it was in one episode, Prince Philip asking Armstrong after Apollo 11 moon landing how it felt up there, And of course, it was seen Prince Philip expected for him to say it was godlike, enthusiastic, very profound. And Armstrong was just just talking about scientific stuff and logic and nothing more than that. So of course, this event actually never happened in real life, but I'm wondering if there are a lot of people that expect from you to come back to Earth with such a profound experience, or maybe, did you get many questions about, is there God? Do you now look at people and unity and life on Earth in a different way that you did before? Do you get questions like that? And if you do, or if you don't, can you still answer it? How is it up there?
Yeah. I do at times. It depends on the audience and what people are what their backgrounds are, what they think it would be like, of course. Yeah, so sure. Yeah, I get that question periodically. I could absolutely say that having a space flight changes you. It really does. There's absolute, that's an absolute, right? Having that perspective, having that view definitely changes you. It really makes you wonder, why would we get mad at each other? Seriously. My first flight, I came back and I'm like, I don't think I could watch TV ever again. You know, like there's so much more that's going on in the world. There's so many places I want to see. I don't want to be in traffic and wasting my time. I don't need to wait in a line for Starbucks and have somebody get mad at me because I ordered too much or something. That just seems so bizarre to me. And I do still feel that like we all need this perspective to just go away for a little while and realize that we're all humans. This flight, though, it was funny coming back. That's a universal perspective I think that most everybody who's gone to space has, and how we should actually protect this planet and live peacefully together. But this flight, one of the things that really hit home to me was how nice everybody was to me when I got home. Like, people were all like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're home." And it's just because of the news, because I think I reiterated how much of a good time we had up there. Yes, there was some unknowns, but I mean, people that, again, I don't know who they are, but you walking down the street just because we were on the news, like, "So glad you're home, thank you so much, we were praying for you, blah, blah, blah." Like, this happened again and again and again. I was telling the story at Vitnian, and I don't know if you guys know or have been to the Orlando airport. Anybody been there? It's where Disney World is. There's 1 million children in the terminal there. The people on the Southwest airplane, when I first landed in Florida, recognized me, and I came up the jetway to the airport. The people on the loudspeaker, "Welcome home, Sonny Williams," and there's like 1 million children coming around. You're like, "We're so happy you're back home." And this airline statuses, like, "We've renewed your status because we heard you lost it while you were gone for 9 months." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And all these people are coming up to me. I had stickers and stuff, so I was able to pass them out. But, that is just a small example of how many wonderfully nice people there are in this world. And they don't know who I am. They really don't. They know that I was floating around in space, whatever. That's all they know. They don't know, really where I come from. They don't really know my background. They probably don't know that I'm Slovenian, probably don't know that I'm Indian, don't know really care what color I am or what religion I am. But people are just nice. Really, really, really nice. And I think we forget about that about each other, right? People are nice, and we actually really care about each other. And I just want to make sure you guys know that.
As we come, I think that you should come here. I think that you should just stand next to me. It's okay. Because they will applaud you again, I'm sure. Yeah. I promise we can do one more, just that we finish, or officially, because you are in a rush, I know. As we come to the end of today's event, I believe we can all agree that we are leaving with new insights and fresh perspectives on science, exploration, and our shared future. On behalf of the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics of the University of Ljubljana, I would like to sincerely thank you, Sunita Williams, for sharing your experiences and insights with us, and for taking the time to engage so openly in discussion. I would also like to thank all of our speakers and partners and everyone who joined us here today, in person or online. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you. Thank you.